This is WeBurlesque.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Filipino-American or FilAm takeover of the WEView, part of the WeBurlesque network in celebration of the AAPI Heritage Month of May. AAPI stands for Asian American and Pacific Islander, for those of you listening who aren't familiar. Now, before we get started and I introduce our fantastic panel of speakers, a little bit of a disclaimer. Filipinos make up just a fraction of the AAPI diaspora, and we are not attempting to represent the entire AAPI experience. All panelists are discussing their own identities and lived experiences. Although sidebar, I would love to see a takeover by another AAPI identity. Please reach out. All right. So, without further ado, let us introduce ourselves. We have a fantastic panel. First of all, my name is Curly Bright, she, they, and I am based in the Northern Virginia side of the Metro DC area. I've been performing burlesque professionally since 2015. And that makes me feel extremely old. All right. Let me actually go down the line alphabetically. So when I call you out, let's do names, pronouns, home base, and then a little bit about yourself. All right. Let's start with Ariana.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ariana Moore. I am a performer based in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm actually reporting live from the Always Lounge here in New Orleans right now. And I've been performing burlesque since 2016, and I'm just like very excited to be doing this today.
Yay. Thank you so much, Ariana. All right, Beth.
Yeah, hey there. My name is Beth Amphetamine. I am specifically a drag performer and producer based in Baltimore, Maryland. I really specialize in events production and drag specifically, though I also dabble in draglesque, which is burlesque with spoken word, and drag incorporated into that cross-dressing. Um, like I said, I am working out of Baltimore, Maryland. I've been performing since, I would say, fall of 2023. I'm fairly new to this. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
But already producing.
Yeah, I came into the space from like an events production background and a theater background. I was doing events production in my undergraduate years for the Maryland Institute College of Art. So I had a little bit of a background in like management and events producing before I started doing nightlife.
Hell yeah, we love to see it. All right, and finally we have Pinay Grigio.
Hi everyone, Pinay Grigio, she, her pronouns. I'm based out of the Pacific Northwest here in Seattle, Washington. I am a Filipino American burlesque performer, dance educator, and producer. So I've been in the scene since 2019, I believe. So I think I'm coming upon my 7th year anniversary, and I'm really excited to be here.
Woo! Yay! Fantastic. All right. I want to get into our first little icebreaker before we get into our full-on topics. I'm sure that everyone has a lot of fun stuff to say about this. So, how do you incorporate your Filipino culture in your performance? Yeah, who wants to go first? This is a free-for-all. If no one says yes first, I have dice and I will roll them.
I can break the ice.
There we go. Hi.
I don't know that I have necessarily a typical experience in terms of my Filipino like cultural upbringing, though arguably I think there's probably no typical experience. I realized I forgot to state my pronouns earlier. I use any pronouns in drag.
Thank you.
I grew up in like southern Indiana, actually, which is not where I currently produce or reside. And I'm a second generation Filipino immigrant. My family moved here. My father was born here. My grandparents moved here in their young adulthood. My grandmother's from Manila. So unfortunately, my family's story culturally here in the US is very much one of assimilation for survival. That is at least how Indiana and the Midwest and kind of middle America is. I can't speak for the experiences of people on like the East Coast. I know the West Coast is less that way. I have some family who's out there and that does not seem to be quite the same experience, but I specifically grew up raised by white people. I am very lucky to be raised by queer people specifically. I was adopted, half adopted by a lesbian couple. I have a Filipino dad who is my sperm donor, who's also a gay man. Um, so I was raised by like a white couple with a Filipino parent kind of on the outside, connected to that family tangentially. And despite my white parents' best efforts to connect me to my culture through my family, there was never an opportunity to do that because so much of it was survival through participation in whiteness. So most of my experiences with Filipino culture were really through community, sharing food and meals, and sharing space. And I would say I bring that into my work as a burlesque performer and a producer the most in terms of offstage stuff, if that makes sense. A lot of that comes through in the community organization I do, like weekly kind of craft nights and potlucks, and trying to foster community spaces with other queer Asian people in my like drag and burlesque family, and really trying to instill the same sense of like familial connection that I had growing up because it was such an important thing to have like the giant meals with everybody who was from my Filipino family because we did not practice, unfortunately, a lot of the more like culturally like from kind of where my family grew up in the Philippines stuff. Like they would not teach me the language. They would not do a lot of that stuff, but we would still cook foods. We would like make lumpia, we would make meals, and we would share those things. We would do karaoke together. So stuff like that is more of the basis that I have, and that's what I try to bring into my work, I would say at this point, if that makes sense. I don't
It
know.
absolutely makes sense, and I feel like throughout all of the episodes that we're doing throughout AAPI Heritage Month, we're going to be hearing a lot about a combination of making your community, but also growing up with assimilation for survival.
Yeah,
That's huge in our culture and our experience.
yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you for sharing, Beth.
Yeah.
Let's see, who would like to jump in next?
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking about when I heard the prompt about how like a lot of times when we do like sort of act like we kind of see like tribute acts to the culture and all of that. And I've always like wanted to do a very specifically some sort of like cultural tribute. Whether like incorporating like the Maria Clara or like doing some sort of like to Tagalog music or something of that sort. But I haven't gotten the chance to. I've always like kind of wanted that. I've always wanted that to be like a collaborative effort where I like find like a costume person who is Filipino and like kind of work on that like kind of collaborative effort, but haven't gotten the chance to do that quite yet. So in general, in regards to the actual attitude that I have about burlesque and the way that I kind of go about it and what influences it, I feel like it's like not so um specifically like an aesthetically Filipino, but like at certain attitudes and influences get like put in there. Um I feel like Filipino Roman Catholicism is a thing that has like impacted a lot of particular themes of my own work because I was raised in that very standard Roman Catholic upbringing. And like that, and like I was Catholic schooled like the majority of my schooling years. So that has like probably like the biggest like cultural impact in regards to like how I do art and like the kind of art that I put out there. Like I kind of do incorporate a lot of like imagery of like the sacred and the divine in what I do. And then I also feel like because of like the very um the Filipino attitude towards queerness is like such a unique one, like culturally. And so like I'm very thankful to have been raised like with a family that's been very accepting of me, of my own queerness, of my own transness. And I feel like part of that is, and like my queerness and my transness is such the biggest part of is like the largest thing in the forefront of my own art and my identity and my business and my work. And so I think having that cultural attitude that's like more or less like accepting, but not necessarily understanding, has kind of allowed the openness that I have about that to permeate my work.
I love that. Also, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I was raised very Roman Catholic, and then thinking, oh man, incorporating that into kind of erotic sort of entertainment, my parents would flip. I love that you're incorporating that as well because that is like the Roman Catholicism and like the divine and all that. That's huge in our upbringing as well. Like you have all the churches and everything in the Philippines. We did Simbang Gabi over in Manila with my family as well. Like at this point, you can't really like distance that from the Filipino experience.
No. Yeah, I feel like the Catholic part of it is just like a, and it also just like, and like also I feel like the Catholic, like the that like kind of point, like kind of also like kind of bridges gaps with like bridge like that Christian colonial impact kind of allows like this bridge for like other cultures. Like I feel like I am involved with like a lot of like kind of other things with like fellow community members who are like who are Latin. And so like I feel
Hmm.
like that like the kind of like the handshake of like being Filipino and Latino people is
Oh
like
yeah.
bond is strong there.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. We have not heard yet from Pinay Grigio. All right.
Okay. Well, so I started in the scene in 2019, and when I had made my debut, my name was very, very basic at that time. So I knew that my identity was something that was really important to me. My Filipino identity was very important. And it took me a month, to kind of figure it out. And of course, as all great ideas happen at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I'm like, wait a second. It's like, I want to be known as Pinay Grigio. So I think like for me, it's important to, have the name Pinay Grigio because Pinay is an identity. A lot of spaces that I go into, I often hear Pinay or Pinay. And to me, it's like people are always like, am I pronouncing it right? And for me, it's a way that I can go ahead and step in and give people like a cultural lesson and a historical lesson of Filipino people. And also just kind of like what the slang is for Filipino folks. But I think like when it comes to my burlesque, I was just thinking about my aesthetic. Um, I would say that I love to smile and I love to project some type of warmth. And I think that also is very, very natural of like a lot of like the people that are, in the Filipino diaspora. I was also thinking too, and this is a thing that I don't share. I don't think I've ever shared it, period, because it's always been very personal to me. But even like when it comes to putting on makeup, um, my nose is very sacred. My skin is very sacred. And I think like being raised as like Filipino, we have learned different messages, whether it's like from media or like from generations before us, that like our looks have to change. Our noses need to be like sharper. Our skin needs to be lighter in order for us to feel beautiful, in the skin that we walk in. And I intentionally do not put any contouring like on my nose because that's just like my big screw the world. Like I am comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable in the face that I present as, and I'm happy to be here. Like my worth is so valuable that people should be lucky to meet me. That's like how I kind
Hell
of
yeah.
like, that's how I kind of like navigate the world. I'm like, it's my pleasure to be here, and if it bothers you, too bad, because it's not bothering me at all. Um, Also, as like a producer, I have a show called Halo Halo Cabaret, which is a
Yay!
yay! It's a cabaret variety
I
show
love that.
that I've done quarterly. Thank you. But it's also like a big thing where the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander group, we aren't the same. So it's like it's showcasing a diaspora. It showcases that we are all different. We all come with our unique things that we bring to the table. But my big thing is that as a producer, the way that I bring my culture into this world is that I just lead with love. That's like the biggest thing to me. It's like I lead with love, I lead with kindness, I lead with respect towards like the people who are in my space, who are willingly wanting to participate in like my productions, and just, showing connection and showing some type of gratitude. So for me, it's always been kind of like a bigger picture thing where I think about like my burlesque, but then I also kind of think about like how do I elevate it and how do I um, create, I guess, like the values that I have inside me to be instilled like outwardly into like the burlesque world. But yeah, that's how I incorporate my Filipino culture.
Absolutely. And I know that like as soon as the first time I ever saw your name, I was like, oh, yes. Although I don't know, the first time I saw your name, I think it was that group Asian like Zoom thing, what like I think it was Tazagul or
Oh
someone who
yes.
organized it. It was after the spa shooting. Um
Mm-hmm.
and this was like a community, like we all need to get together here because all of us are feeling it very, very specifically right now. And I think that's one of the first times I actually clicked on something, was like, oh my gosh, here's a huge community. And wait, that name is hella Pinoy. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, I love it because it's like I'm not a huge drinker, but then like, Pinot Grigio as a drink is like very refreshing and you have it during summertime. I'm like, hey, I come from a tropical place. I can roll with that. But yeah, my big thing is that I tell people that it's Pinay like Bill Nye or like Pinay with a sigh instead of like Pinay. So it's just a cultural and a history lesson, and I don't take any offense to that. I'm like, all right, let's set the record right. Once you're corrected, I'm like, hopefully that's it. But
You're gonna
yeah,
learn today.
you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn real quick. But hopefully with love, with love.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. You're gonna learn, and we're going to treat you with care as we're educating you.
Yes, yes.
All right, so that does leave me now on the most literal sense of the word of incorporating Filipino culture in my performance. Some of you may know that I perform as Jollibee. Um,
Yeah.
and I actually, when I first came
God.
up with that idea, like it was it was looking at Final Fantasy VII remake and then the honeybee in, and then hearing that and going, oh no, I have to put Jollibee to this music. But what I did was I actually went on Instagram and I started like posting stuff like, hey, all other Filipino performers sound off. Like, does anyone else have this idea? Is anyone else doing this? Am I stepping on anyone's toes? And I got messages from at least three different other Filipino performers saying, girl, do it. This is going to be funny and amazing. And I am primarily a clown. I do a lot of Victor's message just came through. Hell yes. We're everywhere. Jollibee's everywhere. Actually, Jollibee is expanding at a massive rate. And you know what? Good for them. Good for them. We love to see it. We love to see Filipinos um succeeding on the global scale. Kind of wish that there would be more ube that was exported locally, but you know what I mean. We got Jollibee. We got something. We'll take the dub where we can get it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I feel like there's like kind of like this thing happening right now where it's like I like we like was saying that similarly with like matcha, like ube is like kind of having like a sort
No,
of
it's
trendy moment right now.
totally the
Yeah.
new matcha. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it is at all. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's just like people are just like, ooh, like it's like we went from like it's like, oh, this cool green, this like foreign green thing to like this foreign purple thing.
No.
The
Why
the,
people
the
love
colors of it all.
they love a novelty color. Why people love a
They love a
novelty.
novelty color.
Yeah, they don't
Also,
know
I
how
feel
to
it's like
flavor it.
No, they don't.
no,
They just make stuff purple and they're like,
no.
like, this is bad. This
It's
is
it's kind of feeling like me, like growing up with ube, as like I would eat pan de ube and pan de coco when I was a kid, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, now it's all over the place and it's easily accessible and I can get it everywhere. And it's like, wait, No, I can't. It doesn't taste right.
Right, and then it's just purple yam, and it's not,
It's just purple yam. Yeah,
which
but
is fine, but that's not what I want. That's not what I want.
yeah, there are more purple yams than just ube out there. That took me a while
Totally.
to realize that,
I
actually. I'm just like,
know.
oh, ube. Oh, wait,
I know, and well,
no.
they'll sell it as ube too. Like they'll market it fully, like name price. Like, this is false advertising now.
The
What?
Philippines needs to learn how to capitalize on that because they are
Yeah.
not the countries that are capitalizing on that.
No, not at all. Yeah, because I was like thinking like when you mentioned Jolly Bean, like as we're talking about like ube and stuff like that, I feel like it's like kind of this interesting like cultural trend of sort of just like certain like a certain culture's cuisine kind of becomes trendy over like like over a course of time. Like I feel like Vietnamese food like had like a really big moment like most
Oh, yeah.
recently. And like I feel like Filipino food is like kind of currently having a similar moment like upcoming because I have been seeing a lot of like things like on the feed of like people going to Filipino restaurants or like stuff like that. So it's like interesting to kind of see that cycle of like because I also just like saw a video recently of someone saying like it's like wow what years ago being Filipino was mysterious no one and
Well,
like
that's because they like our previous like previous generations were trying to shrink themselves for the sake of survival. It's
Drew
like,
fair
oh. But now there's like a huge like heritage, like, yes,
yeah
loud and proud. Now you must look at me and
yeah
acknowledge that
the
I'm here.
film invasion is here.
Yes. Alrighty then. So, let's get into it with our first topic discussion for today, which is a big one for a lot of us. How does your family respond to you performing in the adult nightlife industry?
I got really lucky
Mm.
because I know that not a lot of Filipino parents are open for whether it be religious reasons or family stuff, whatever. I got really lucky because my dad was a ballroom teacher. So the arts was already kind of like in there. Um, they're really happy. They're actually happy that I
Yay!
found a creative outlet that expresses myself. Um, they've been to shows of mine. I think the most awkward thing that has happened at like one of my shows was I removed my bra and I could hear my dad saying woohoo and I thought that was the most awkward thing. So I was like, oh no. But it was a really cute act. It was a balikbayan box act that I had
Oh
and
my God.
Oh
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I removed stuff from the balikbayan box. If you don't know what a balikbayan box is, it's a pretty much
Pulling
a
out Nike
care.
sneakers.
Hey, I pulled out chocolate, I pulled out shirts,
Yes!
I pulled out a bag, and also spam. Spam and Vienna sausage were like the
Yes!
last
oh
things
my
that like I
God.
came out. But I got really, really lucky with that because they're just so open.
Yeah, my family, I think my family's like for like since I've been doing this since like 2016, but I've like worked in queer nightlife since 2012. And so like my parents were like aware that I like worked in nightlife. And then when I started performing, I don't think they understood what burlesque was for a good period of time. And I didn't really like take the time to really explain it to them because I just didn't really feel it was like really necessary. Like they've always been like supportive and they're just like happy that I was like working and that I was like doing well for myself. But then finally, actually, I took my parents to the Always Lounge, to here in New Orleans, to a show, to one of the shows that I am a performer in, but I wasn't performing that day. As like kind of like an intro, it's like this is what I do in case you couldn't figure it out, in case like you like had any like misconceptions of what I did. So they like kind of got like the full spectrum of that, but they haven't watched me perform yet. But overall, like it was really cute because like when I brought my mom to the show, my mom like told me, it's like I'm just like so happy to like see you like be in a place with like people with like a community that loves you.
I love
Um,
that.
it was like yeah, it was a really healing like sweet moment for me, and I was just like kind of like wow, it's like wow, healing like generational ties.
Yeah, that's big.
I love that for you. My parents have also gone to a show, and then they've gone to a couple of my Halo Halo Cabaret productions. And I think the biggest thing or feedback that I've gotten from audience members have been it's so nice to see, Tito and Tita at a show because my parents wouldn't be here or like my family would not be here. They're not supportive of this. So I think just having like parents, that they see that support us as like performers and just being there is such also like a very, very healing thing for audience members to see as well. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah. Also, it's like, yeah, I feel like it's because like I was like honestly surprised because I actually asked like because I asked them afterwards like if they liked the show and they said they really had a lot of fun and they like really like it was really nice to like hear them talk about like how like emphasizing like the talent of like the performers that were on stage as opposed to kind of like the spectacle of nudity and kind of like which would normally I feel be the hang up for a lot of people, like a lot of parents. But I was like, really happy to see my parents really like hone in on sort of this like, wow, your friends are so talented. And I'm just like, yay, thank God. Because I was like, now you know, because it would be awkward if you didn't like it. So glad you do.
Phew. That's all I have to say about that. I'm still too scared to invite my parents over to any of the shows that I am attributed to, even the ones that are all Filipino. I am too scared. But yeah, let's actually move on to Beth. So you said that you were raised by a queer family and you're a
Yeah.
drag performer, so you have a
Yeah.
very unique
Definitely,
experience
definitely.
here with
Yeah, I
us.
have I think a lot of privilege in terms of being raised and growing up around queer people my entire life, which like as a queer and a trans person, I feel very, very lucky to have had. My dad, my dad is my Filipino family member because again, like I said, he was a like a gay family friend who also was a sperm donor. He was one of my mom's best friends at the time. Um, and Unfortunately, he and I don't have a relationship at this point. His relationship with my grandfather, um, who is the person who brought our family here, really with his wife, my my Lola, many, many years ago, just was a little bit contentious. My dad is the second oldest son in the family and is the gay son as well. And so he just received a lot of pressure kind of his entire life to be, you know, to be the son who is the one, his older brother, kind of broke the familial expectation. He didn't go into medicine. He went into modeling, very, right, already very scandalous. And then moved out of the home state. He left the state and went off and did his own thing. He married a white girl, very scandalous, went into modeling and just kind of said fuck you to the expectations of their dad. And then my dad, his younger brother, was just gay as all hell, and really wanted to pursue a career in the arts, but also had a lot of familial pressure and unfortunately, those things spilled over into our relationship a lot, to the point that when I left Indiana and I moved to Maryland and Baltimore to pursue both my undergraduate degree and eventually begin producing in drag, my being so kind of overtly queer and visibly so made him just incredibly uncomfortable, which was really disappointing because he is obviously a queer Filipino person who raised me. Um, and we ended up having to go no contact a couple of years ago. He has some mental health struggles that I can't really speak to just because I'm not him. Um, but he had like a very strong visceral reaction to not even like a performance photo or anything that I posted of like me and a partner I think maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, which was just like a tirade of like, how dare you represent the community this way? Aren't you proud of how your cousins will see you? Aren't you glad that your aunts and uncles are going to find this on the internet and this is how everyone will see that this is what Filipinos are? Which was just very shocking because I mean, like, that is the gay parent of a gay Filipino kid. And there are so many reasons that we should have had an opportunity to connect on that front. Like he has given me like tickets to go to drag shows before. We've gone to Pride together. Like those are things that we have shared in the past. But that happened before I even like did my drag debut. So he's never been to any of my shows and we haven't spoken in probably 3 or 4 years just because he had such like a just a really strong reaction. Even up until I was like going to undergrad, he was trying to convince me to pursue medicine and trying to talk me out of going into the arts. And I think a lot of that is just the residual pressure that he faced when he was growing up. And I think that's very unfortunate. I don't know.
I'm sorry to hear that, and I wish I was surprised.
I know it like that's like the tough thing about it too. So I don't know. I hope that we're able to mend some of those wounds someday. I do luckily still have a very positive relationship with the rest of my Filipino family.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I but they are all in Indiana and
Mm.
I'm the oldest girl cousin. So their knowledge of what I am up to is a little bit hit or miss because a lot of my cousins are still under the age of 18, and I do not feel that I can super be like, here's what I do. Here's my drug pun name and my kink party that I throw at the leather bar. Just because that doesn't feel particularly appropriate to share with a bunch of elementary schoolers.
Fair enough. And something you brought up is when your father said like, "Oh, your cousins are going to see this, your aunts and uncles are going to see this." I've noticed that with Filipinos that it's all about
Yeah,
the optics. It's all
yeah, very
optics.
much so.
It's all like, "Oh, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with in the reality. You need to post photos or show people back home that you're doing better than you actually are because you want to give them the like the picture of perfection. You want them to
Absolutely.
think that things are going well because it's all about the visuals for them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's very interesting because I think in the scheme of what I do, I am very successful, but what I do is obviously considered lowbrow in many, many like contexts, especially in like an Asian tiger parent context, which is what my dad had on his shoulders, obviously his entire life, and a little bit what he tried to put on me, but was not able to just because he didn't have full parental control. So I don't know. It's weird and hard, but we do our best, you know?
We do our best indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. I know that not all of the stories that we have to share are going to be feel good fuzzies, but they are important stories to have. And I feel like once we share them, there are going to be a lot of other performers out there with us, or not just performers, but people who just listen to the podcast who want to who who want to feel a connection to someone else in the industry. And I do feel like there are going to be some people who hear all of these stories and will feel like they're not alone, you know. Um, oh yeah, Victor mentioned the American dream concept for immigrants. That's exactly what it is. There is an exhibit right now in the Smithsonian American History Museum called How Could You Forget Me, which is the Filipinos living, I think, from 1910s to 1960s in Stockton, California, in Little Manila, and it talks about how there were like photos of them living the American dream in like their steamer trunks, but like the actual reality of it is like they're asparagus farmers and they're like, you know, labor workers, all that. So it's all about showing off that dream, so to speak, but also wanting to not disappoint the people back home. It's like, oh, the dream isn't what I thought it was, but I can't let them know that. Let's see. I still have not talked about my experience with my family. Let's just say they know, but they're not celebratory. I told my family I'm actually so this is coming out in May, but we're recording this in March. So I'm actually going to Bagel Burlesque Festival in Montreal in late April, and my sister lives in Edmonton. And I told her I'd be coming up to Canada, and I told her why. And I told my parents I'd be going up to Canada, and I told them why. And my dad's reaction was just like, "Huh, okay, good." And then my mom's reaction was like, "Mm-hmm." Like so, they're aware they're not very celebratory. I remember one time I think I had only been performing for about 3, 4 years. It was my birthday. My mom took me out, got me cake, and then sat me down. Um, I think it, yeah, I think I had been living in Vancouver for a little for makeup school, and then I came home and then stayed there for a little bit and then went back. And my mom sat me down with my cake on my birthday and it's just like, so were you exposing yourself to strangers? I remember that. And she started crying. She told me, Ate, okay, Ate, if you love your family, you will never do burlesque again. So that was, I
Oh,
saw that look on your face, Pinay. I saw that.
Oh, I
But
hate that.
That was very, very triggering to hear because it's like, I think we've been also fed right through Catholicism, basically, is that
mm,
a family that stays together, prays together, right? And I think there's
yeah.
so much expectation to make your parents proud or your family proud. And I don't know if like other podcast episodes for this particular series will mention this, but we have this thing called utang na loob, where it's like you feel indebted. It's a Tagalog phrase where it's like you feel indebted to other people. Hence, you try to perform really well and you try to be successful at what you do despite, challenges or anything that you go through. So you just kind of just push through it, knowing that like there's something that kind of like ties you to this specific thing. But gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks.
It got better. It did get better because
Okay,
like I didn't stop. I didn't that's the thing.
don't.
Like if I here's the thing. If I couldn't live without it, then I would have stopped it because of how my family is, but like I couldn't live without it. And what I remember is I was on tour with Geekenders in Vancouver. I was part of their Nude Hope tour and I was performing like twice a week for like 3 months straight in on Granville Island in Vancouver, but I had to get an understudy for one weekend because I was going back to Virginia for my sister's wedding. I didn't realize one of my sister's bridesmaids was in the audience and didn't know. And then she actually called my sister and was like, "Oh my God, your sister's so good. She's in this burlesque show. I mean, oh my God, it's a." And then like the producer, Ryan for Geekenders was like, "Hey, a friend of yours is like wants to see you." I'm like, "I didn't invite anyone." And then I see her and I'm like, "Oh no!" And she was just like so excited and I'm like, "You didn't tell my sister, did you?" She's like, "Of course I did. You were amazing up there." She didn't know, so I don't fault her for anything. But like I remember a whole bunch of the other Geekenders cast like coming around me and like putting their hands on my shoulders and being like, "Okay, you got this." So I like phoned my sister and she's like, "Okay." So I was like, "Hey, you better not say a goddamn thing to mom and dad, all right?" Like, and so she promised and I'm like, "I don't believe that for a second, but okay." I fly home and there's already some beef going on between my mom and my sister, and my mom's pretty much using me to like distance herself from my sister. So my mom's taking me to like get our hair done and get our nails done and all of that. And I'm like, something's going on. It had to do with like the wedding and money and all that and who's paying for what. It was a whole thing, but like my mom was pissed. And so, of course, my sister took the opportunity to make it so that my parents would not be pissed at her, but be pissed at someone else. So I remember it was the day before the wedding. My sister called me into her room and she's like, "Here's a pillow. I want you to hug it." And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "I told mom." And I'm like, and this is the day before her wedding. And she's just like, "Hey, I don't like that you're lying to our parents. We're a family and we shouldn't keep secrets from each other. And I don't like that you're tricking them." So she turned it around on me. Um, and so that was my sister's wedding. But like I pretty much stood my ground. I actually called like an SOS to like the person who's now my husband, being like, "Get me out of here." And so I got cornered and then I got rescued. But then like the wedding happened, and then after the wedding, I was just like, "I'm going back to Vancouver and y'all have crossed a line." And I do remember like I think I think my mom got a kick in the ass because of like my sister getting married and me like living far away, that it was like at mass, it was at church, and she pulled me aside and she's like, "Hey, just because I don't agree with how you live your life doesn't mean you're not my kid, and my priority is keeping the family together." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that is the best reaction that I could have gotten. I will take it. Thank you." So like she did change her tune. The whole like my sister trying to throw me under the bus kind of backfired. Um, and then this just happened this past year when I was like, I'm sick of my sister using this as leverage. I'm going to tell dad. And I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. So I remember inviting my dad to a cafe this past, I think it was this past summer or something, and I we got drinks, and I told him, and he kind of just sat there and was like, "Okay, what's your gross income? Are you making enough for retirement? I just want to make sure." And I'm just like, that's what you're afraid of. That's what you're afraid of. Like, I told him, and he was just like, "So, how much are you making?" And I'm like, "Well, Dad, you're not going to like this answer either." But that is how my family reacted. So they all know they're not exactly celebratory about it, but like I got sick of hiding. And I was like, look, this is who I am. I'm married and I have my own home now. I could just not visit you. So like you're gonna have to be cool about some things. But yeah, that's my story. Thanks for letting me let that off my chest, which now means I'm not telling my family about this podcast.
I know, like the will the family listen to the podcast that slightly airs out the family.
They're not going to click on something that says burlesque.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I think my big gayness has been slightly diffused by family happenings that have come before my big exploits into like I don't know. I throw some very out there events. I regularly go through and I take my cousins off my like following just because a lot of them are children, and then they find me again and I'm like, please. I don't know. I work in some more explicit parts of nightlife than just like drag, and like I do like some like sex work events specifically at this point in my career, which are very not child appropriate, and I keep trying to keep them from seeing it, and they sure find their way back to me no matter what. But I don't know. My cousin lost her leg a couple of years ago, and I think that kind of took
Ah,
away the like, oh my God, of the like the scandal. So
I was gonna say you're popular.
right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not a lot of us have left the state of Indiana, so it's a little notable. We do what we can.
alrighty then. So we are going to take a quick break, take a moment, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Ponton,
And I'm Lillian Bustle,
and we're the hosts of All the Fucks.
a podcast about vulnerability.
But it's more than just that. It's nostalgia.
It's unrequited crushes.
It's the mortifying moments that make you want to crawl back inside your own belly button.
Ooh, and somehow it's sometimes about pelicans.
A pelican allegory, if you will.
Oh, I will.
So if your heart has ever felt like a skinned knee,
Oh, you'll fit right in as one of our fuck buddies.
All the Fucks. A storytelling podcast wherever you listen.
Hey, Victor. uh, yeah, I'm seeing your message here. You didn't realize how Catholic the Philippines is? Oh,
Oh
baby!
my God.
Well, once you realize that everybody's last name, well, a lot of Filipino people's last name has like ties to just like Spanish folks, then you'll learn real quick that we were under, that rule for 300 years. So
Yeah, we were under Spanish
Yeah, I think
colonialism.
even to this day, I think the Philippines, well, it's always been like the Philippines is like the only predominantly like Christian like country in the region. And it's like it's in like the 90 percentile of like the population is Roman Catholic specifically. The rest is like, I mean, there's Latter-day Saints missionaries in the Philippines. And then like there's like small pockets of Muslim communities in the Philippines as well. But like overall, in the same way that like secular Protestantism is the way of America, that's Roman Catholicism is the way there. With our shared brethren of former Spanish colonies.
Now there are a lot of Filipinos who are living in Spain now. When my family went to visit Barcelona, the number
That's
of
so funny.
Filipinos there, like we got special treatment. We were like queue jumping at restaurants because the white staff was all Filipino. All right, everyone, welcome back to the FilAm takeover of the WEView for AAPI Heritage Month. Now we're going to move on to our second topic, which is who are your AAPI role models in the adult nightlife community? And this extends to all AAPI. It does not have to be just Filipino because we want to celebrate everyone. All right, who wants to go first? I am about to roll a die. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it rolled on to Beth.
Of course, of course, of course. Hmm. I would say, in terms of API role models that I look up to currently, when I was first entering drag spaces, um, there were not a lot of other Filipino or AAPI performers in Baltimore, that I knew, period. The scene has awesomely, like, fantastically expanded a lot since I started. When I started, there was not really anyone around. There was like maybe two or three of us that I knew of. Which not to say that there were none, but just people who people knew of didn't really exist. And there are a lot more just Asian artists, period, in Baltimore specifically and in the surrounding cities. So I was primarily looking up to kind of bigger names in drag internationally, just because like local artists were not accessible to me. Um, I found a lot of inspiration from people like Pangina Heels. She is a Thai drag queen. She's done a lot of work to further just, I think, the global reception of Thai drag. Um, she is she has a lot of venues in Thailand specifically that she is kind of the manager and the face of. Um, and the caliber for drag her entertainment I find very, very compelling. I also I look up a lot to Citrine. She's in DC. She is a drag performer and producer. She worked primarily at JR's bar. She is just a very, very skilled artist. She's a little bit more local. Um, and back when it was still airing a little bit more as a new season of Drag Race, Drag Race Philippines was a really big deal for me, just because the Filipino drag that exists has always been such an excellent caliber of drag that a lot of the Western world is just not aware of. And I think the quality that Filipino drag holds itself to is so high for a lot of the reasons that we've already talked about in this podcast, just because of the standard that Filipino people are kind of culturally expected to hold themselves to for a lot of
Yeah,
different
I've been to
reasons.
drag shows in the
Um,
Philippines. I've seen it.
it's it's
Yeah.
some fucking badass shit, but there were specific performers that I think were able to be seen on a more international stage for the first time. Like Marina Summers is the main one who comes to mind just off the top of my head because I think she got a lot of the most global acclaim, and she recently came out as a trans woman, which is really, really awesome. So good for her.
Yeah,
Rest in
rest
peace,
in peace,
JB
JB
Caliente, of course.
Caliente.
That's lost
And
was
I
really,
loving
really
all of
sad.
the drag representation from Manila Luzon as well. Like she has leaned into that.
Yeah. Yeah, they were two of the first, I think, Filipino drag performers that I ever saw, like on television. Because I was raised by queer people. I grew up watching Drag Race, shockingly, like when it was airing in 2000, like what was that, 2008 maybe, when the first
I
season was
guess
on
I remember the earlier
logotv.com.
seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was certainly too young to be watching it, but I watched it anyway. And I grew up watching all the seasons as they aired when they came out. I haven't been watching the recent ones just because now that I do drag, I find the TV show slightly less compelling, which is kind of its own bag of worms.
That's so real
Uh,
though.
right? Like, because here's the thing, it's a money game at this point, I
Yeah.
fear. I don't
Yeah, because
know.
I remember watching Drag Race like in 2000 like 9, like when it was like season
Mhm.
2, I believe. And I just or no, it was like 2011 or something like I was like but yeah, it was like before I
Yeah.
got into nightlife myself.
It
But
was, I feel like the earlier seasons too were a little bit more interesting to me as someone who does the craft as well, just because it felt a little bit more attainable in terms of the people doing it. And at this point, it is so much just like, do you have $300,000? And I'm like, well, I sure don't. Like, even if I were to ever get onto a show like that, I would not have the financial means to hold my own if I wanted to.
And
Um,
speaking of Drag Race,
there,
I
oh,
did ask
but
Mandy to come on the pod, but she was very busy.
I know I was gonna say actually the Philly dolls, there's the Filipina community, there's a giant drag family there in Philly that is really kick-ass and really amazing. They have drag and burlesque kind of combo family out there. Just a ton of really incredible artists. They do some really awesome producing. Mandy obviously is a member of that family. They've also got Pixie Sticks. She's awesome, lovely, lovely individual, another just like badass Filipino drag performer. I do create not specifically Filipino, just a lot of very interesting people working together to create specifically Asian showcases and excellence, which I find very, very compelling. I've been able to bring some of that to Baltimore here. We were able to do like our first AAPI drag
Hey,
showcase here in Baltimore specifically last May, which was awesome. And to bring drag to the Lunar New Year celebration we do here in the city as well. So all of those things have been very
that's
exciting.
awesome. And
Long,
oh my
long
God,
source story.
the Philly scene is so good.
It is good. They enviable. Hope to work with them also at some point.
Yeah, oh no, just like start contacting people. A lot of them are just really busy, but like they're super fun to work with.
I came in the scene in like 2016 and 20 like to say like 10 years ago. Oh yeah, it's 10-year burlesque anniversary. Woo.
Hey!
But eh, but yeah, I think the only I was like there was like nary like any AAPI represent like literally the only AAPI person who was like really performing burlesque at the time was Grandma
Mm.
Fun in New Orleans. And then coming in, like I was just like kind of happy. Like I was just like happy to know that there was like another person who was not just Asian, like the API, but like Filipino specifically. And like since then, like in New Orleans, the number of API performers hasn't really like gone up all that much, really. Um, I think it's like still like me and like there's more in drag here, but like just still like not a very significant number. So like I really kind of like felt a like lack of like connection to like locally to like other API people. But in regards to like kind of nationally and internationally, and like on the broader spectrum of API, I really love like Crocodile Lightning, um, obviously like kind of and like Shanghai Pearl and like I like I've been like it's like 1 year I will go to the Asian Burlesque Festival.
Fingers crossed.
Um, Fingers crossed. I always miss the application deadline.
It's gonna keep going. It'll keep on going.
I'll set a reminder and then I'll message you and be like, you gotta apply.
Apply. but yeah, I feel like I always like felt sad and like that like there was like the kind of like of having a lack of a role model, like a role model, quote unquote, like with it that is API, because I feel like it would be like nice to like have more like a cultural foothold, since like kind of baseline to kind of like um to help like enforce and like connect on. But like unfortunately, like I don't really feel like I like could have like there is someone that I could call like a role model, quote unquote, at this current moment. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. It also means now it falls on us.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrifying? It's freaky and weird.
Hey, guess what? We are the mentors now. Hey,
I know.
Hey.
no pressure.
That's so
Yeah.
relatable though. Like you mentioning that you feel sad because you don't see a lot of people who look like you who are like on that stage, and I can relate like 100% to that, because that's why I ended up creating Halo Halo Cabaret, because it came from sadness and anger and frustration. And I said, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. So let me go and like find my people. So that's basically how I ended up kind of like in the place that I ended up in. But that's relatable.
I remember the first time I saw like Halo Halo Cabaret pop up on my socials. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And like also when Bonga happened over in Richmond, Virginia, I was actually in both of them. And Ariana, that's how I know you actually.
Yeah.
We were both in Bonga.
Yeah, like when Bebe asked me to do bonga, I was like so like elated. I was like so overjoyed. Because I feel like and this will actually like will probably come up in like the third topic, but like I like I think it's mainly like like a localized thing of just like context of the city and community that I'm in, but the racial ambiguity problem of like Filipinos is still ever present. And so um I got like so like I often like find myself in like general BIPOC community situations, but like I've always like there's like I've never like it's so rare for me personally to like be in a space that's like specifically AAPI, but also more specifically like all Filipino. So like to be asked to, when Bebe asked me to do bonga, I was like, absolutely yes. And it was like so like, because I'm just like, oh my God, wow, people who are looking at me actually like know who I like what I like who and what I am, was like a really like it was a really cool experience for me.
I was happy to share the stage with you there.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Binay, did you have any role models that you wanted to shout out?
Yeah. I love people that are just so loud and creating all these spaces. So, like, one that comes to mind obviously is Calamity Chang, because of
Oh
her
yeah!
work with just
Yeah!
like Asian Burlesque Festival. And then her pieces too are like cup of noodle pieces and stuff. Um, so just people who are just loud, and Joyrider is another one in Montreal who I think is doing such impressive work with expanding, I think, like a piece that they've already performed into like, is it like a 20 or like 40-minute piece or so called Walang Hiya?
Oh, I'm gonna
And
have to ask about that. Wait. No, no, that's one of Bebe's episodes. Never mind. I
oh
won't ask about
no.
that.
Okay, we'll ask Bebe to ask Joyrider about their piece. But Walang Hiya, and also like just the title in itself, or English translation, is No Shame. So I'm really, really excited about that. Like for, at least like her to like debut her work. Um, there's also a really badass drag performer here in Washington named Feather Fatale, also Filipino, who does a badass lapu lapu piece.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, all right, we're out there and we're loud, and I just love it when people do things that are big. Another one that's from the Pacific Northwest that I've seen do big things as of recently is Kylie Mooncakes. And Kylie Mooncakes does a production called Asian Glow. So Asian Glow and Hollow Hollow Cabaret, we know that we're like, all right, we can't
Yes.
like, we can hold the community, but we know that it's not like, we have to split that responsibility because it's so much work to produce. But yeah, it's been great just to kind of see people doing big things. And I know that Lady Mabuhay is also doing
Oh,
her thing in
yes.
New York. So it's amazing to see all these different spaces being created. But I know that like those spaces were created because of frustration and being mad. So here we are, world, we're here.
Yes, we are. Also, okay, little sidebar for people who aren't aware. Lapu-Lapu, Filipino hero, the one who killed Ferdinand Magellan. So, part of the resistance for colonialization. So, Lapu-Lapu, big name, but like if you're not in the know, I don't expect a lot of people who are non-Filipino to understand the weight of that name. Yeah. I only know that because of Yoyoy Villame, you know, the when he sings about Magellan landing in the Philippines. I will actually be working on an act to a Yoyoy Villame song, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, you guys are keep mentioning names of like people who are gonna be in Bebe's episodes, not my episode. So yeah, let's see, Joyrider, Grandma Fun, Lady Mabuhay. Yeah, they're all going to be in Bebe's episodes. Yeah, stay tuned. You're going to hear them too. All right. Okay, so I feel like for me talking about role models is difficult for the same reasons that everyone else said, because like there weren't very many people out there for me to look up to. I mean, definitely, I remember seeing Calamity Chang in at the Metalesque Festival in Portland, Oregon, and I remember telling her about that when I performed with her in Philly for a Lunar New Year celebration. I also, freaked out when the first bonga, I performed with Lady Mabuhay and Grandma Fun. Well, I was like, oh my God, these are people who I've been following for a while. But like, that was already like when I was kind of established and stuff. But like when I first started out and when I was still getting into it, I didn't really know what to look for. But strangely enough, there was some burlesque on YouTube. I don't know how that would fly now, but it definitely flew under the radar when I was in college. And that's when I discovered Stella Chu. And Stella Chu is no longer doing burlesque, but she was at the time. Now she's a cosplayer. She's mainly a cosplayer. She works with BB No Money. She does all of that. So she's mainly known as a cosplayer. But back when I was still like developing myself, like pre-debut, I debuted in 2015. I was looking at stuff back in like 2010, 2012. And I just saw a lot of videos of Stella Chu. And since she's a cosplayer, she was doing nerdlesque stuff. I saw a really short, maybe like 2-minute act she did with sparklers as Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. Wouldn't you know it, when I debuted with cosplay burlesque in 2015, one of my acts was Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. Like, I had um we cannot claim her under the Filipino umbrella, but we can still claim her under AAPI. So definitely Stella Chu, even though she's no longer doing the stuff that I'm doing. I definitely look to her as, oh my God, I can do this. Yeah. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Yeah. Oh, see, Victor knows who she is. There we go. This was a fairly short topic, but I feel like topic number 3 is going to be pretty big, so I want us to do another little commercial break before we dive into a heavy hitter. All right, so before we go into another break, are there any other comments? All right then. Okay, sit tight. We will be back in a little bit. Thank you.
Tonight on Murder, She Wrote. Hey. It's
Yeah.
kind of Piper Laurie and Brenda Vaccaro at A Love Child.
Thank goodness.
I want to know
These
her.
nails. Yeah, where's her series? That's what I
She's
want.
fabulous.
The son is Joaquin Phoenix.
I know, isn't that nuts? And he is an ugly little kid. I'm sorry.
We're just like, hey, remember when this guy was in this obscure Broadway show in 1976?
Right? Look at him in those tight pants. Yum.
Well, because there's not
But
a
we
lot
do
really
get-
going on. It's
Yeah.
supposed I mean, unless you're listening to the dialogue, which frankly, audience at home, you can do without us. We're just
Yeah, do
learning
your own
about
work,
some of these
damn it.
backstory. But
Right.
Boswell put her up to it.
Yeah.
And then Trish had to be killed because she realized that Boswell didn't have her interests at heart because Teddy was the inheritor.
Yeah.
Playing her like a fiddle.
Oswell knew it, and Trish just gulped it down like one of those martinis.
And then tossed it onto the lawn.
And then lost her head. Poor Trish.
Trish loses her head. This is Viktor Devonne.
And this is Petra Fried
And this is Tonight.
on Murder, She Wrote.
All right, everyone, welcome back. All right, we have one final discussion topic, and it is a big one for this episode. All right, have you ever been asked to represent in a burlesque setting or drag setting an AAPI race that you don't identify with? And what are your thoughts on this kind of casting? So, Ariana, you're already unmuted.
I have like in regards to the prompt itself, I was just like kind of just thinking about like, are we specifically talking about like whether like it's like the show itself is asking like it's like oh like can you do an act for this like other culture? Is that like kind of more so?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I know this is an aside, but like I know like Grandma Fun has told me about like times when she's been asked to perform kind of like, Hawaiian or tiki sort of stuff,
Yeah, yeah. I feel like my experience is more so that like I'm not being asked to be like do another culture's thing, but I have been asked to do perform in shows that like are kind of more central to another culture, like not just like in a larger API setting, but like people have asked, but like I've been at, but like just other cultures specifically, like just kind of just like I like host my friend's like live Latin band show, and like the cultural messaging is like obviously like it's like centered around Latin music, but it's not a Latin burlesque show. So that kind of like I've had like a lot of, I feel like I have more instances where like culture, like it's not so much like I'm being asked to like play into this generality of like Asianness, but more so I have oftentimes found myself in contexts where I just like, am part of culture. I don't want to say cultural collapsing really, but it's just sort of just like I've just been like invited to do other things, like other cultural things that are not specifically mine.
Kind of
Does that make sense?
like homogenization or something? Kind of like it's like a pan-Asian melting pot sort of thing.
I guess so, but also it's like I also like again like kind of I brought this up earlier, like kind of like the racial ambiguity point. So like oftentimes I've been like asked to do things where I'm just where I've kind of just like depending on what it is, I've kind of been like because it's like yeah, because I've like again the racial ambiguity situation is like a lot of people assume I think this like local, but also this is just a kind of a long running joke of my career, where it's like a lot of people assume that I am Black. or like part black. And so a lot of people have made comments to me like, oh, like why don't you do this? And I'm like, no, y'all,
No.
what? I was like
Well,
laughing because
at
the other
least you can shut that down. At least you can shut
oh
it
yeah, no,
down.
it's like but also just become like a really fun like I feel like my own personal racial ambiguity has like been like a long running joke for like people in the like um it was like to the point where it's like me and Jeez Louise like laugh with each other all the time because people like will mistake us for each other randomly. And the joke is like so funny to the point where Jeez Louise's mom also like saw me from a distance and thought I was Jeez. And I was like, well, we can't escape this anymore.
That's just Asian and Black solidarity. If you're
Yeah.
partially
And it's like
like,
also just like one of those, yeah. Yeah, and also like doing my friend show, like that's a live Latin band show. Like I am not Latina, but like I felt like it was like sort of like it's like but the solidarity, the Latin
yeah,
Filipino
Latin
solidarity
Filipino
is also
solidarity.
like a thing.
I feel like there's just that solidarity with any culture that has been pushed down by the white people. Um,
Yeah,
there
for
seems
sure.
to be a lot of that actually. And I'm not going to claim to know what the cultures are of like any other any other performers or anything like that unless they are very, very open about it. And thankfully a lot of them are becoming way more like out there, which is amazing because I love to see it. At the same time, it's just like, hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's a that I think that's why like this
Yeah.
conversation is such a big one. I'm not sure.
hmm
You know what I mean?
Actually,
Like,
now, actually. So this brings up actually now that I'm thinking about like the actual question itself. So actually, there's been like a thing that's like kind of has never. I don't. This has never been like brought up to me as like a problem, but like as we're talking about, it, it's like, this actually falls into this. Because like I feel like my first foray into like being part of the international scene was I have a cosplay act as Mulan,
mm,
and so
yeah.
obviously I am not obviously Mulan is a Chinese character,
Mm-hmm.
not Chinese. And so that was like kind of, but like that was like, but like I was like utilizing Mulan as like obviously like one of those things is sort of like a like one of two two, three like major Asian characters in a Disney franchise. But also I was like a lot of my number was like very specifically about gender and about being trans and like kind of Mulan as like a as a queer story. So it's like kind of because like as I think about it now, and especially in this context, I'm sort of just like it's like would I it's like as we like are talking having this, I was like, would I do that? Would I have done that now? Would I like still do I still want to engage with that number in the way that I have
Mm.
thoughts?
I think it gets into like a weird space, at least in terms of my experience, where growing up, especially in a predominantly white area, which is where I grew up, there was such a need to just look for any kind of Asian representation and kind of cling to that like white knuckle
hmm
style. And like for me, Mulan was absolutely part of that. I try to think of like other things that were part of that. Like growing up, the vast majority of the Asian media that I was consuming was online because there was so little of it being produced in mainstream media. A lot of the like Asian stuff that I remember really feeling connected to was not Filipino and it was through like YouTubers. I was very, very um like I guess I don't know. I think the things that I was consuming the most were like Ryan Higa on YouTube and Michelle Phan
Yeah.
and like YouTubers and stuff, people who just felt very accessible. Um
Yeah,
I,
I definitely feel that as well.
you
Like
know
the
what I
Asian, like
mean?
a cleaning to Asian media.
Right? Like reading manga and watching animated shows from Japan, like anything, going to any Asian restaurant in my city just because I felt like I there was nothing for me to ground myself in around me that was immediately necessarily my culture specifically. And I don't know, I think there is a lot of nuance to participation in like specifically cosplay tribute, like numbers and things like that, when it comes to whether or not it is specifically related to your identity, especially when in the US, and I don't know, this may not be the most PC way to say this. In my experience,
Bring it.
a lot of the time, white people will not recognize your Asianness if you do not look specifically Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. Um,
Not wrong.
which is obviously not the only way to be an Asian person in this country. And being Asian is not just to be East Asian or even Southeast Asian. Like there's South Asians and West Asians. Like you could be dark skinned, like Indian people. There's such a diaspora of the Asian experience. Um, I don't know. It's weird. I think it's weird and complicated. Like, I don't know. I don't have a neat wrapping up to that statement, I guess.
I feel like there's like a difference between when you yourself take on like the cosplay and or performance of a character that's not exactly your race, but you're making it your own,
Yeah.
versus someone casting being like, "Hey, we want to represent this. You're close enough."
Yes, very much. Like one of my aunts, when she was a kid, got cast in the elementary school production of Pablo the Mexican Reindeer. Already terrible. And she was the only brown kid in the whole class, and so she had to be Pablo. That is like such, like, feels to me like the exact example of what you're talking about, and that feels infinitely more problematic and racist and strange than a number which is a critique of gender and your own experience as a trans person utilizing the device culturally of Mulan. I don't like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
more
for sure.
nuance to that than like, you look brown, you could be the Mexican guy, which is like, now, maybe
Yeah,
not.
because I remember, yeah, because though, like, because like one time I remember, like I posted like a TikTok and like there was like my like I like had my like Mulan cosplay like as part of like the slideshow in the TikTok, and then someone did comment like in the TikTok comments was saying like it's like I hope you're Asian.
What?
I'm just like, well, yes. What? Like, I hope you're Asian because that doesn't seem appropriate that you should be wearing that. And I was like,
I hope
well, yeah.
you're Asian. I'm sorry,
No,
that got
literally.
me.
And I was just like, okay.
No, you can mess people's minds up now. Like you can mess them up now and be like, you know what? Filipino people, are we Asian or are we
I
Pacific
know that.
Islander? And then that's like
Oh
another
my
like
God.
argument.
Which box am I ticking on this legal form?
Please. No, because I heard the census was changing it a couple years ago. Did that happen? The call, like what a Filipino counted as. I heard a rumor that was happening. Did that actually happen? I don't know if that was real or not.
Yeah, when API is like kind of separate, like in
Right.
like in your within your own life experience, like what have you checked? What box did you check? Would you check both or like would you check one?
See, I get the fun extra added complicator of if I have to check multiracial and multiple, because that's its whole
Uh,
own. They won't let me
yeah.
check Asian usually. They want me to check like two or more. And I'm like, all right. Let me put myself in the extra box. Yeah.
I've checked one or the other depending. Sometimes it's Pacific Islander, sometimes it's Asian. Like I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, yeah, one, it's fine.
If I'm feeling crazy, I'll check all three. Asian, white, multi, Pacific Islander. Complicate the process a
Yeah.
little bit.
I'll answer this one because, okay, so Filipino, right?
Yes.
But parents are originally from the Philippines. However, they've immigrated to Hawaii in the 1970s. So I was born and raised in Hawaii. So people are like, so what are you? And when I lived in the Philippines for high school, the Filipino people or local people there kept calling me Hawaiiana, where I'm like, no. And I'm like, I don't know why you would call me that. And then it's like, you move over here and you're just like, it's either you're too Filipino or you're not Filipino enough. And it's just like, whatever, I'm just going to live the way that I live. Y'all can figure it out. But I think like for me personally, I've toggled. I've been like, what do I feel like today? I think I'm just going to do this or this. And I think it's really hard. Okay, have I been asked to represent a certain race? Okay,
Yes.
in this specific, okay. A couple of years ago, I think it was just like right after COVID had happened, there was a Facebook thread that like popped up in like one of our burlesque groups. I'm not going to say which burlesque group. If you were there, you were there. Great. But someone had asked like, I want to do a tropical piece, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. How do I go upon this? And people had responded like pretty well. And then there was someone who responded um, that kind of like leaned more into kind of like a tiki type of answer. And I did not see this response, but however, was contacted by the moderator of that specific page or group and was like, Panay, can you please answer to this? So
Not them making you do the work. That's crazy. I'm so sorry.
I know, but I guess like to me, it's also very important because I grew up in Hawaii, right? So it's like I feel like I know the culture and I know the people around me and I know that, we can't just pretend that the native Hawaiian Pacific Islander culture is not there. And we as burlesquers can take whatever things that we want from that particular culture and just do whatever with it and run with it and make money out of it, depending on what festival you're in or, But anyway, it got to this point where I really had to think about like what I had to say and like really pull just like my education from public education being in Hawaii and history lessons and just being like, hey, it's like you can do tropical pieces, it's fine. But then please understand that like the certain communities that are impacted by this are communities that are within Polynesia. This is what Polynesia is. So I have to break that down because some people don't know. And also like, the use of tiki, it's a god. Like, are you fine putting someone's religion or like idol out there and being okay, like using their materials because it's fun for you? And like, are you okay being offensive because it's fun for you? Are you okay like brushing this thing because it's fun? And obviously I've gotten some folks that are like, no, but you can totally do it. I'm like, no, like I'm from Hawaii. And like our big thing is that we respect the people, we respect the land, and like we don't step on each other's toes. It's like you gotta just respect people. That's like what it is. But it's hard to watch, these things. And funny thing is that the person who had suggested like tiki being okay also is like one of the co-producers of a festival that's here in the US. And they had okayed a tiki piece into their festival and got backlash from the audience and was like, this was not okay. It was appropriation. Please don't ever do this again. And then they, had an apology saying that like, no, we can't do this, blah, 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 we're sorry. But I'm like, you knew it already. You knew that you effed up. And like, you had the responsibility as a producer to do better, but you didn't. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to personally put my energy into any type of negativity. So I'm like, I'm just going to create spaces where my people and our people can feel safe. So that's how I kind of like channel my anger and my disappointment into creating these like spaces because it's important for me because it's social justice work, right? Like burlesque is also social justice related. It's political. So we have to just do both.
I got you. Beth, I saw that you have a question.
Yeah, kind of in a vein adjacent to this, I've noticed specifically in drag and burlesque spaces, there are a lot of performers who have names which utilize specifically Asian words and terminologies, usually foods specifically, who are not Asian performers as their tagline, like usually as names. Do you guys have any feelings about this? Most of the other Asian performers I've spoken to usually find it kind of peculiar, but nobody feels like they can say anything. And that's like everything from like egg roll to like kimono, like just like literally as the performer's like first or last name. I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's like an appropriative choice. It just always is interesting to me because I don't see that with any other cultural group happening. Like you don't run into people like naming themselves after other cultural foods or practices in that same way. It seems to only happen with Asian stuff. I don't know.
I think that's the whole anime culture, I'll be honest. Because like I've noticed that too. I have noticed
Yeah.
that, yeah.
A lot of like the biggest name producers I know of do this, and it doesn't feel like it's at a point where it can be really talked about.
Yeah, just it kind of does just kind of feel like this very like just broader weeboo wisdom that
Yeah,
exists.
it definitely I don't think it has anything to do with appropriated culture. It is kind of like, huh, but
Like one of
the
those
first
like
thing
kind
that
of
comes to mind
like
is like,
slightly
oh, it's weeb culture.
like right like one of those things that is just kind of culturally normal, but also is objectively a little bit strange. I don't know, like I don't know. There's a lot of
That
things I
is,
feel like
yeah.
in terms of
That's
like
a
how
that's a
we
huge like
treat like
yes. I'm
Asian.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's just one of those things I think that like in terms of how we treat Asian culture in terms of microaggressive tendencies is very normal. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff like that that I don't know.
It's also kind of like the fascination. It's like this kind of like this also like situation just so it's like this like the consistent history of Orientalization and like kind of like
Yes.
exoticization of the Orient, quote unquote.
Hmm.
And kind of just like elements of that just like continue to permeate throughout like
Yeah, yeah.
Western culture in general.
I saw a drag number like one of my first year performing by another Filipino queen who is a lot more white passing than I myself am. And she performed kung fu fighting like in a Chinese dress, with a cone, like a triangle hat.
I, I
And
don't know how I feel about
Oh,
that.
I didn't
yeah, I
know
don't
how
know
I
about that
felt
either.
either, and I was the only Asian person I saw in the whole like venue, and everyone there loved it. Like they laughed and they hollered and they had the time of their lives. And it was just this like weird moment where I was like, again, this is this cultural thing where laughing at Asian stuff is okay if it is presented in a way that is for some reason culturally acceptable, which I don't know. I feel like I run into that a lot with various like I don't know if microaggression is even the way to describe something like that, which is quite overt. Just like things that I feel like for other cultural groups would be very obviously like, hey, maybe that's kind of offensive, that just kind of get a pass in the context of like specifically Asian imagery and cultural stuff. I don't know. I don't know if it's like the model minority kind of influence still taking effect. I think it's a lot of the exoticism of the Orient that we were talking about earlier. It's just like a weird thing that I run into still sometimes. I don't know.
That's a really like loaded question, and now you're gonna have me thinking about this because actually, when I was casting for Holo Holo Cabaret, I did reach out to one performer because their name sounded very like Hawaiian. So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, I'm just wondering," and that's what I do because like I'm not really quite sure about a lot of people because a lot of people in our community is white passing, right? So I
Yeah.
just like reach out and I'm like, "Hey, I'm wondering if you're part of the community." Um, and I'm wondering if you would like to be part of my show. So that's like what I had, said. And
Mhm.
they're like, no, I'm not part of the
Right, and it's
community.
like, what's going on? Like,
Right. And I was like, why is your burlesque name that then? And then,
At least they were honest.
yeah. And yeah, right. I'm like, don't come to my show. And
it's like you
so,
don't want to gatekeep, but it feels a little weird that you're using something that maybe like it's not a closed practice, but also I know that if someone white was using like names that were very clearly part of like AAVE or like black culture in that way, it would get chopped immediately. So like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer there is. It's something that I've been like chewing on a little bit recently just because it keeps popping up. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Really
know
thought
if
about
your
that.
first name being kimono sits well with me. That feels kind of peculiar.
Is this
but
all?
also too, I'll see this, like being in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, our political climate is very, very liberal. And I don't know what it looks like on the other side of like on the East Coast and the South. Like, I don't know like what it looks like. So for us, it's like even saying things like AAPI, people would be like, actually, it's AANHPI. And like for me, I'm like,
It's like we're
okay,
like it's like this is super wokeism.
yeah, yeah. So it's like they get really, really technical. And, I always just, I'm like, all right, there's always room to grow. And I think that's like beautiful that we're having these conversations. And Beth, I think it's also beautiful that like you mentioned that, hey, it's really complicated. Like, I don't know what to do with it. And I think that's pretty common for like a lot of people to be like, how do you do this? Like, how do you even like navigate all of this? So yeah, it's wild.
Okay, so just a sidebar. So while AAPI is Asian American Pacific Islander, for those who don't know, AA and HPI is Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander. Got it. I wanted
Yes.
to add that to the pod. Sorry, continue. I just wanted to put that sidebar in for people who are just like, oh, terminology, what?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good because like Native Hawaiian, they're still in Polynesia, but then like Native Hawaiian is their own particular group because Polynesia also composes of like, Micronesia, Melanesia, and then you also have like Samoa, so West Samoa. So it's a lot of different things. It's one of those things that you have to look at the map and you look at all those little tiny islands that are there that you need to look at, like just be aware of just kind of like the things. So thank you for, just sharing with people. And it's a new acronym. I kind of feel like that people are just trying to get used to. I know that like it's been more like frequently used within the last like couple of years. So yeah,
It'll get to the same notoriety as the LGBTQ plus, all right?
yeah. We'll get there.
Okay, any other thoughts on the question before I dive into my thoughts? Okay. So, because of my ADHD brain, and I do say that seriously, I was diagnosed at an early age, I did have to write this one down so that I could get my thoughts in order. Okay. So, when I moved to Vancouver and I joined the troupe Geekenders, I do not think they did anything maliciously, but the first role that they cast me for was for their latest Star Wars show called The Lust Jedi, and I was cast as Rose Tico. And Kelly Marie Tran is Vietnamese. But, you know, I took the role. It was my first role with Geekenders. I got really excited. And of course, you know that the hate for Rose Tico, all the Star Wars fans were rabid very negatively. So I did end up kind of crying in bed a little bit. But you know what? I feel like I did the character justice in the end. So, and then later on that year, I was asked to fill in last minute in a Disney show as the genie from Aladdin. So
You hear me sigh? Sorry.
hey, I think I did a good job, but the
I
genie's
believe it. I'm
blue.
just like, not the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah, so it was yeah, so you're talking about Robin Williams, you're talking about Will Smith, you're also talking about the Middle East. So um those were my main examples of it. And yes, they do fall under cosplay and they do fall under nerdlesque, and they're very specific characters that have a very specific culture attached to them. So here are my thoughts that I wrote down. I took the roles gladly because I appreciated that they didn't ask a white person and asked me to represent instead. I took it as a responsibility because I didn't see many Asians in burlesque at the time. I only knew 2 to 3 other Filipino burlesquers in the area. The Asians were all in circus and theater. I assumed it was because of family shame. In my experience, Asians were shamed at any inappropriate pursuits, so the lack of Asian representation in burlesque made sense to me, and so I took pride in taking the gigs. But those were my thoughts. Now, granted, nowadays, this was back in 2018. And that was in Vancouver, where there are so many Asians and a lot of Filipinos, but a lot of them were in the non-adult nightlife entertainment forms of theater. A lot of them were in circus, a lot of them were in acrobatics. I didn't see a lot of them in burlesque. Now I'm here in DC. It's 2026. There's a whole like community of us. Like I've been in bonga burlesque, like all of that stuff. Like I'm talking to a lot of nightlife professionals who are Filipino. So I know that we're all out there. But at the time, I didn't see anyone. So I thought, well, no one else is out here doing it, and they're asking me to represent. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to be proud of it. So that's my history. I don't really know what my thoughts are about that right now. I probably wouldn't take those gigs today, but that's my history for when I was like newer to it.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point about like specifically like access to like other Filipinos and other AAPI people, because like obviously like especially like within cosplay context or like thematic context, it's sort of like it's like you kind of want to do the full spectrum of like what that fandom or like what that show or movie or media piece of media entails, but like it's one of those things where it's sort of just like I kind of like have like a similar attitude that you had more so at that time. Sports it's like I'm glad that they took the time to at least find the closest thing.
Yeah.
But it does like leave a complex question. Sort of just like is it such a thing where like you just should just leave it out?
Mm. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
but
a
again, it's like
question.
I think, but again, like asking someone like in regards to like a thematic show or like kind of is like different from like actually asking a person to engage in culture.
Yeah. I guess like if this is a specific character, there's more to that one character than just the
Then
racial
just
identity. Yeah, you can do more with that. And I do know that in future years, Geekenders actually cast someone else to play Rose Tico. Still not, I don't think a Vietnamese person, but not a Filipino. So, um,
yeah.
which I was perfectly fine with. But yeah, that was my experience. Like, I don't know. I feel like that brings up another thing of Asian families shaming their kids into, oh, if you're going to do theater, you're going to do something wholesome. Or if you're going to do performance, you're not going to do something that's going to expose you. You know, when my yaya found out I was doing like I had a yaya. Like when my yaya found out like I was doing burlesque, she's like, "I Ate, are you just doing things in a back alley?" I'm like, yeah, yeah, no. I was sending her, I was showing her backstage photos of Geekender. She's, oh, oh, this is art pala. You know, like they just get the wrong idea of what it is. But because they have the wrong idea of what it is, I feel like there's a younger generation out there up and coming who are just becoming adults who have the wrong idea of what burlesque is, so they're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't know. I just feel like since we are now the mentors, there kind of falls on us this responsibility to educate and be like, mm, this is actually what burlesque is. If you still don't want to be part of it after really learning what it is, then cool. But like, it's not what people are saying it is sometimes. I don't know. Any thoughts?
I mean, that's the only way that you can move forward, right? You screw up and then you're like, shoot, I need to do better. And you just keep moving forward, right? And like, I do appreciate the questions or like the thought process of like, yes, I did this. Was it the right thing to do? Like, would I do it again, like now in this like particular day and age? And it just goes to show like how much we've evolved, you know, like as a country and like how much we've evolved like in this world of burlesque. Because now it's like I think you both have mentioned that I was the only one. Like I was the only one there. I was the only one who could do this. And I'm like, now I can think of so many other people, you know, that I'm like, you know what, this person would be more appropriate, or this person, have you tried this? And like the fact that like I can now think of like different people in different fields, whether it's like cirque or acrobatics or like burlesque, I'm like, okay, I can point to my people now. So I think we're much louder and we just grow. We just continue growing and that's being human for you.
Absolutely. And when we make the mistakes, we now have stories to tell to the next batch of performers.
Yeah,
Whew.
that thing where you have to make the space, unfortunately. But then when the space exists, people are like, "Oh my God, you did the thing." It's like, yeah, somebody had to.
You're welcome.
Literally.
Whew.
I was like, I actually was like thinking about like from the first, like the very first question, like as we were like having this question, I was like, the kind of like the impact of like Filipino culture, like how has Filipino culture impacted our work in burlesque? And I just like, and I like, it dawned on me like just now. I was like, it's like, wait a minute, like there is like Filipino culture like does have like a very large emphasis on like performance and like sharing performance with community, which is why like we have like that like never ending like meme of like Filipinos and karaoke.
Yes.
Like that like notion of just like having the amateur performance, like amateur, this is truest form of like doing thing for the love of the thing.
Hey, anak, come play piano for your tita. Anak, come here, come here.
Yeah, I'm very that. And like that particular brand of like karaoke culture, like is very much is like, oh wait, like yeah, that's why I'm a singer. That's why I sing doing burlesque. And it's also like speaks to like this notion just like sort of just like feeling like being on stage feels like very second nature because of just like how that was like kind of instilled.
Oh yeah, Filipinos were performing out the womb. Whether it be for entertainment purposes or for the optics.
For the optics. But yeah, it's like there's just like such a attitude of just like we do the thing for the love of the thing.
Absolutely.
And there's like so much love that gets into it. And like so like I was like, actually this is a really big touch cornerstone.
Yeah. No, performance is like huge for Filipino culture, and we love sharing our performances with other people. Love getting on stage when the relatives have a reunion. Ay, sample, sample, come here. And everyone just throws a little concert. Um, and also just, like you said, karaoke. There are karaoke stalls set up in shopping malls in Manila, and people will just go up. Like it's such a big thing for us.
I get to host a drag show at a karaoke joint now, which is really fun. It feels like a nice
Hell
Hey.
little.
yeah.
It's not a Filipino spot, but it's like a
Yeah,
giant.
I like aside from performing, I sing karaoke. Like I like go to karaoke like in like random dive bars throughout New Orleans, like at least like twice or three times a week.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being part of the first of 4 episodes for the FilAm Takeover. I really appreciate y'all answering the call and joining us and having these conversations. And every episode is going to have a completely different set of questions. So tune in, audience, because we are going to be running a gauntlet of topics. All right. So let's go ahead and ask our panel of speakers their socials, anything they'd like to plug. Just remember, this is coming out in early May. Let's go again with alphabetical order, just like we did with introductions. So, Ariana, would you like to let us know your socials, how we can find you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm solely on Instagram right now actively because Facebook is a hellfire.
Mhm.
Twitter is also a hellfire. Um, and I refuse, and I'm not going back on TikTok because of Palantir. Just on Instagram, you can find me on at LOVEJUSTLIED. Love Just Lied, not Love Justified. Love Just
I made that
Lied.
mistake. I thought it was Love Justified. I am sorry.
Most people do. Most people do. So just to clear, Love Just Lied, not Love Justified. LOVEJUSTLIED.
All righty. Beth?
Yeah, I am on Instagram at beth.a.bmore. That is BETH period A period BMORE. I'm on Twitter at Beth from Bmore, pretty easy. You can find a link in my bio for all of my upcoming shows and my website, my digital tipping information. And I do a lot of stuff in Baltimore and the DC area. It's happening in May. Up and coming, there's going to be a big Pride takeover for my show Bimbo Night at Le Mondo. So if you're in the Baltimore area, you should come and see us. It'll be a whole lot of fun on June 13th. And I do a bi-monthly kink party at the Baltimore Eagle. That's a super fun celebration of just like trans and lesbianism. So if you like getting a little freaky, you should come and see us. Yeah, you know. Check out Be More Dyke Drag too. That's at Be More Dyke Drag. We also have a website that promotes community events and just queer spaces for all different gender expressions, inclusivity. We do an open stage every single month. So if you want to throw your hat in the ring, sign up and get out there, honey. It's a really good opportunity. It's very, very organized for anybody of any experience level. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Binay?
Okay, you can follow me on my website. It's www.pinaygrigio.com. I am on Instagram as Pinay, Pinay .grigio. You can find me on TikTok, Pinay Grigio. And let's see, I think the easiest way to kind of get to know what I'm up to is by joining my mailing list. Also, Halo Halo Cabaret is on Instagram as well as Halo Halo Cabaret. I am in the, see, this is the thing. It's like usually Halo Halo Cabaret is a quarterly show, but this year or this past year has been like, guess what, Pinay, we got this thing for you. So I've been just kind of like postponing my shows, but hopefully in October, there will be another show that will be coming up. So yeah, just hang tight and just follow me wherever on socials, and you'll be up to date on my happenings around town.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Alrighty, and as for myself, my name is Curly Bright. Once again, you can find all of my links on Linktree/Curly Bright Productions. That's linktr.ee/Curly Bright Productions. I'm not really active on Facebook or anything else anymore. I did have a Twitter once. I did have a Blue Sky once. I don't really post on there anymore. But I am still on Instagram under Curly Bright Productions. Also, I am one of the moderators for the casting call Discord server for the DC metro area. So if you are interested in being part of a Discord server for like specifically for casting calls in the DC metro area and beyond, we do have a channel for out of town casting calls. Then just let me know and I will send you an invitation link that does not expire. And thank you so much to Viktor Devonne and the WEBurlesque podcast for hosting this episode of the WEView and all episodes of the WEView moving forward, especially the ones that are for AAPI. But seriously, like if there are any non-Filipino AAPI performers out there who want to run a takeover of their own, like let me know, let Viktor know, like I can let you know how we organize this one. I would love to hear it. All right. So, in order to get in touch with the WeBurlesque podcast, it's at WeBurlesque on Instagram and all platforms. Please follow, like, and subscribe accordingly. Thank you so much to everyone here and to Viktor, and have a good night.
The WeView is a product of the WeBurlesque Podcast Network, White Elephant Burlesque, and Viktor Devonne. All commentary is that of the creators of said speaking. So if I agree with them, that's great. If you agree with them, that's great too, but that's what they wanted to say. I love them for it. Please support the pod by going to patreon.com/WeBurlesque or finding some other way via the footnotes, and follow these fabulous entertainers who dared speak up at a time when so many people feel silenced. Love ya.